She stands still in the center of the desert, where the air is dry enough to erase sound and the wind moves like thought. The night holds its breath. Her hair shifts just slightly, not from breeze but from tension in the atmosphere, as if the sky is folding inward. Overhead, the moon hangs too precisely, a circle so perfect it feels artificial. Its light slices through the sand like a scalpel, and somewhere in that sterile glow her shadow falls in the wrong direction. It doesn't point away from the moon. It bends toward it, then sideways, then splits, like the light doesn't understand where she is. She doesn't step back. She knows. Her body always knows before language catches up. Something is watching, and it's not from above. It's from within the geometry. And we've built myths out of its silence. A moon to write poems under, to howl at, to love by. We named its phases and attached meaning to its cycles. But behind the romance is a precision too tight for coincidence. It controls tides, yes, but it also stabilizes the planet's axis, regulates seasons, slows time. It is not a passive object. It is a condition, a stabilizing structure. But what if that structure wasn't born? What if it was placed? In a distant suburb, a child falls asleep with a telescope pointed skyward. She's drawn a smiley face on the lens cap, forgotten to remove it. Still, the moonlight paints her face through the window, and for a moment her eyelids flicker, as if responding to something unsaid. The light isn't warm. It's exact. It's not shining, it's targeting. Like a scanner, like a machine checking for change. And in the woman's hand is a mirror, small, circular, old, not for vanity. She lifts it slowly and tilts it to catch the moon. The reflection wobbles, not like light in motion, but like data recalibrating. The moon shifts, just for a second. The edges stutter, correct themselves, lock back into place. The stillness resumes. But it's not real stillness, it's a freeze frame. And she's no longer watching the moon. She's watching its performance glitch. They say the moon rings when struck. That it resonates like a bell, deep and long, longer than it should. That when seismic charges were detonated on its surface, the reverberation lasted for nearly an hour. A rock doesn't behave that way. Hollow things do. Engineered things. It's not a theory. It's a fingerprint. And someone or something left it there. Sometimes the familiar fractures not from violence, but from silence misaligned. A photograph shifts when you stare too long. A melody replays but lands on the wrong note. You wake in your own bed but swear something is reversed. The moon has never shown us its far side. Not once. Not even by accident. It's the quiet child in the family portrait who never looks at the camera. NNSHE starts walking sideways. Not away, not toward, just off axis. The shadow doesn't follow her. It splits. One line tracks her movement. The other stays fixed, like it's anchored not to her body, but to a version of her the moon refuses to update. It's not malevolent. It's meticulous. And in that split, something opens. Not a doorway, but a realization. This isn't a satellite. It's an interface. NNFOR centuries, we've mapped it, mythologized it, mined it, planted flags and mirrors, and left our bootprints. But maybe it's not what we left on the moon that matters. Maybe it's what the moon has already taken. Are we sure it's real? She sits on the rooftop of an unfinished hotel somewhere near the equator, where the moon climbs faster than the sun and feels heavier in the air. Below her, the pool glows with artificial turquoise. Above her, the moon watches without blinking. She doesn't look away. She doesn't know why, but the longer she stares, the more she feels like she's not observing it, but syncing with it. As if the act of looking too long begins to tune her body to a frequency she can't name. Her pulse slows, her eyes dry. The silence between her and the sky begins to thicken. Then, for a fraction of a moment, the light flickers, not visibly, but spatially. Like the moon adjusts itself by a micron to maintain some invisible balance. Like it knows it's being watched. We've always believed the moon was part of us. A daughter of the earth, born from a collision, shaped by chance. That's the story we tell in classrooms. An object slammed into our planet, ripped off a chunk, and gravity molded it into a companion. But the math resists that narrative. Its composition is too exact, too stable, too dry. Its orbit is too round. Its size is too perfect. The odds of it eclipsing the sun with such precision, astronomically low. And yet it does. Regularly. As if made for spectacle. As if someone, somewhere, wanted us to look up and ask the wrong question. NSHE lies back, palms pressed to the concrete, feeling for vibrations that don't come. The hotel is abandoned, the city distant. In this isolation, her body becomes a seismograph. Every breath, every twitch, registers like data. She wonders if the moon is recording her. Not filming, recording. Not light. Pattern. Maybe that's all it needs. Not behavior, but response. The way you flinch before impact. The way your eyes move when something breaks your understanding. Maybe that's what it's listening for. In there's a term for the moon's behavior, synchronous rotation. One spin per orbit. Locked. Like a mirror bolted to the wall, always reflecting the same side. No natural satellite of comparable size behaves this way in our system. It's an outlier. A geometric anomaly, and yet we treat it like background. A given. But what if it's not an object? What if it's a platform? A fixed node in a system we haven't yet mapped? NSHE reaches into her pocket and pulls out a piece of old foil. Crinkled, reflective. She lifts it to the sky. The moon reflects in it, warping, stretching. But it doesn't distort like normal reflection. It stabilizes. The edges become sharp. The brightness intensifies. The foil begins to vibrate. Not audibly, but through pressure in her fingertips. She drops it. The feeling lingers. A low hum in her nerves. A resonance. Not sound. Signal engineers once pointed lasers at the moon, retroreflectors left behind by Apollo missions. The beams bounced back, but not always cleanly. Sometimes the return time was off, delayed, bent, as if something behind the surface was absorbing, processing, replying. These anomalies were dismissed as atmospheric interference, but what if they weren't errors? What if they were edits? NSHE walks to the edge of the rooftop, barefoot, the concrete still warm from the day. The moon is higher now. No clouds. No wind. Just a sky so still it feels painted. And in that stillness, a memory surfaces, not hers, but imprinted. A moment from years ago. Standing in a museum, staring at a lunar model under glass. Noticing the wrong thing. Not the shape, not the craters, but the face. It didn't look passive. It looked alert. NNTHE. Illusion of stillness is the moon's greatest disguise. It's not still. It's fixed. Stillness implies rest. But fixation implies purpose. And purpose requires design. NNSHE sits again. The hum in her fingers is fading, but something in her spine has changed. Attention. As if gravity itself has become directional, pulling not down, but inward. Toward the chest. Toward something seated behind the ribcage. Like the moon's influence isn't just external. Like it maps us from the inside. Her breath shallows. She doesn't panic. This isn't fear. Its alignment and NTHE problem isn't that we see the same face. The problem is we've never questioned why it keeps showing it to us. As if the moon isn't rotating for balance, but for performance. A stage with a spotlight that never moves. NNSHE tilts her head just slightly. The moon brightens. It's imperceptible, but she knows. It reacts. Not quickly, not obviously, but with just enough delay to suggest computation. As if it needs to parse, to model, to respond. As if the relationship isn't gravitational, it's conversational. NNN. And she no longer knows which one of them is initiating. Somewhere in the South Pacific, a station floats between layers of atmosphere, tethered by data and doubt. Inside, a team monitors fluctuations in lunar reflection, minute delays in light return, spectral shifts that don't align with surface composition. The data isn't dramatic. It's subtle. But the pattern is unmistakable. The moon is responding to attention, not to telescopes or satellites, but to intention. The act of focused observation appears to trigger micro-changes in reflected light, like a biological pupil reacting to emotional charge. The technician writes a report. He doesn't send it. There's no language in the protocol for a celestial body that adjusts. At the edge of a reservoir back on the continent, the woman stands barefoot in shallow water, still clothed, motionless. The surface ripples around her knees. Above her, the moon burns white and precise. She raises her hands slowly. Her reflection doesn't mirror her. It lags. A delay. Half a second. Then sinks. Her fingers tremble, not from cold, but from something else. The sensation of latency, as if reality is buffering around her movements. Not nature. System NWE used to think the moon was solid, rock, dust, cratered permanence. But then came the anomalies. When seismic charges were placed during missions, the moon rang. Not figuratively, literally. It vibrated for over 50 minutes after impact, like a bell struck in vacuum. That shouldn't happen. Not unless the interior is hollow, or layered in such a way that echo is preserved. Engineers used terms like resonant cavity, but deep down, everyone knew what it felt like. Shell NNSHE cups water in her palms, lifts it, lets it fall. Each drop lands in rhythm with her breath. The moon watches. Not metaphorically, with presence. The light isn't soft, it's precise. Photons-like decisions. She closes her eyes. The water moves differently against her skin, no longer random, as if shaped by another rhythm beneath hers. Like interference. Like Kodan, in the 1970s, Soviet scientists proposed something unthinkable, that the moon might be artificial. Not a spaceship, not fantasy, but a megastructure, a frame wrapped in regolith, a machine buried in myth. Their calculations pointed to densities that made no geological sense, internal voids, surface metals of strange origin, patterns in crater distribution that defied natural impact probability. Most dismissed it, not because the math was flawed, but because the idea was unusable. No one wants to rebuild the sky. She opens her eyes. The reflection is gone, not dissipated, withheld. The water reflects the stars, the trees, but not the moon. The surface refuses. Like a mirror protecting its content, like something sacred or forbidden. Her breath catches. She doesn't scream. There's nothing to scream at. Only absence, which is worse. She steps back. The water follows. NNWE often think of gravity as a force, a pull. But it's also a conversation. Every object exerts influence. Every mass is a signal. The moon's gravity affects more than tides. It alters time. It stretches the crust. It pulls at the brain. Lunar cycles correlate with mood shifts, crime rates, hormonal tides. Not because we're superstitious, because we're porous, because the body listens, even when the mind forgets. NNSHE walks along the reservoir's edge. The moon follows. Its path arcs impossibly slow across the water. But something is wrong. Its reflection doesn't match its position. The angle is off by degrees too subtle to be casual. She stops. So does the image. Her heart thuds once, louder than expected. Like the silence just behind her ribs has thickened. What if the moon doesn't orbit Earth? What if Earth is anchored to the moon? NNTHE thought isn't poetic. It's structural. If the moon is fixed, if it's the node, then we are the ones in motion, the pendulum, the data feed. What if the sky we see is not a backdrop, but a stage light locked on a singular reference point? And what if that reference is not the moon itself, but the mind that looks at it? NNSHE kneels. The ground beneath her feels less stable now, like it has loosened from something. She puts her ear to the soil. There is no sound. But her spine tells her there should be. Not vibration, presence. As if she's kneeling on the lid of something listening from beneath. In 2011, scientists discovered that the moon is shrinking, slowly. Its surface buckles, creating cliffs, thrust faults that stretch for kilometers. The cause isn't tectonic. It's cooling. Something inside is contracting. As if it no longer needs to maintain volume. As if the pressure to appear planetary is fading. NNSHE lifts her head. The stars blur. Not from tears. From interference. A faint shimmer, like heat over asphalt, distorts the constellations. But not the moon. It stays perfect, clear, in focus, as if whatever veil is rising over the rest of the sky excludes it by design. NNSHE speaks for the first time. Not loud, not direct. Just a breath formed into shape. What are you? NNTHE moon, of course, does not answer. NNBUT, the water behind her stirs without wind. The city sleeps under sodium light and routine. Elevators rest in their shafts. Phones hum quietly on nightstands. Surveillance cameras blink on empty streets. But above it all, the moon holds position, utterly still, perfectly visible, yet impossibly distant. From her balcony, the woman watches as its light bleeds into the glass towers like a sterile tide. She has stopped asking questions, not from surrender, but from a shift. Questions assume ignorance. But what she feels now is not ignorance. It's displacement. A growing certainty that the moon doesn't belong here in the way we think it does. That it's not part of this world, but parallel to it. NNTHE mind resists such thoughts. It needs structure, timeline, origin. But origin is a story we edit each century. First, the moon was a god. Then, a rock. Then, a remnant of impact. Each version wrapped in the language of its time. But none of them fit. The isotopic signatures are nearly identical to Earth's crust. Too identical. As if the moon didn't come from elsewhere, but was fabricated to seem local. To feel native. To be accepted. NNSHE walks into her kitchen. Opens the fridge. The light is too bright. She closes it. A simple act. But her reflection in the window does not close with her. For a split second, it lingers, facing the moon. Then catches up. Her heart jolts. Not panic. Calibration. She begins to understand the scale of the trick. It's not that the moon is lying. It's that it's failing to maintain the lie. In physics, there's a term, phase coherence. It's the degree to which systems remain in synchronization over time. In quantum experiments, coherence breaks when a system is observed too directly, as if attention itself introduces instability. And what she's begun to feel in her body is exactly that, a fracture in coherence. The deeper she attends, the more the illusion thins, not disappears. Thins, like heat haze or the edge of a dream. NNSHE returns to the balcony. The air is cooler now, quieter. The city's heartbeat has slowed. She leans over the rail. A streetlight flickers once, then stabilizes. But its glow feels pale next to the moon, not weaker, more passive. The moon's light doesn't just illuminate. It asserts. It shapes. Like it carries rules encoded in each photon, rules that override context. The shadows it casts are cleaner, straighter, artificial. The light behaves more like simulation than reflection. There's a documented phenomenon. During eclipses, the moon's temperature drops drastically within minutes, far too quickly for natural cooling. It's as if thermal regulation is being shut off, like an internal system powering down. A machine ceasing its cycle when no longer being observed. It doesn't disprove its naturalness, but it breaks the illusion of passivity. NNSHE closes her eyes and turns her back to the moon. Instantly, her body feels lighter. Not weightless. Unsupervised. A slackening in the field around her, as if pressure has eased, as if stepping out of a spotlight. The contrast is unmistakable. She turns back. The weight returns, and NNSHE tests it 3 more times. Same result. And now she knows. The moon isn't reflecting sunlight. It's reflecting focus. Its brightness increases not with angle, but with attention. NNSHE whispers to herself, not out of fear, but to tether thought to breath. It's not watching us. It's waiting. And the thought that follows, uninvited but absolute, is this: it only activates when we believe. This changes everything. What if the moon's visibility isn't for us, but because of us? What if its stability, its perfect orbit, its single locked face, are not gravitational consequences, but interface responses? Not a natural occurrence, but a feedback loop sustained by collective observation? NNSHE looks down at the sidewalk 5 stories below. A couple walks past, heads down, not looking up. The moon does not respond. It remains cool, fixed, indifferent. It doesn't need their eyes. It has hers. One is enough. One is always enough. Because the moon is not surveying humanity. It is measuring consciousness. One mind at a time. And now, it has hers. She wakes in the bathtub. Not with fear, but with the feeling of having been reassembled. The water is cold, the light pale, the air still. A glass sits on the floor nearby, half full of something she doesn't remember pouring. The moon presses in through the window like a presence too large for the frame, casting light that has no softness, no gradient, just exposure. Her fingers are pruned, her skin shivering, but her eyes are wide open. There's a pressure at the back of her neck, a weight not from gravity, but from alignment, like something behind her has locked into position. Not physical, positional, as if her thoughts are now geolocated. NNSHE steps out, wraps herself in a towel, and walks barefoot across the tiles. Each step echoes sharper than it should. The room isn't amplifying sound. It's amplifying her presence. Her body, her breath, her thoughts feel too loud inside her skin. She stops in front of the mirror. The reflection is intact, obedient. But her pupils are dilated more than they should be for a room this bright. Her heart isn't racing, but something deeper, below the nervous system, vibrates like an ungrounded wire. NNWE, think of the moon as external, something to look at, point to, photograph. But not everything observed is outside the body. Some structures are mirrored in tissue. In 2023, researchers found that lunar cycles affect human sleep even in the absence of moonlight. In sealed labs, with no windows, the pattern persisted. The body knew, not metaphorically, physiologically. Melatonin production, REM phase, core temperature, all sync to a celestial body it could no longer see. Because not all interfaces require light. Some operate through field, resonance, memory. The skin is not just a barrier. It's a receiver. NNSHE opens a drawer and pulls out a pack of matches. Not for fire. For rhythm. She lights one, watches it burn down, drops it into a glass of water, lights another. And as she repeats this small ritual, the tension in the air thickens. Not in resistance. In presence, the moon outside brightens by degrees too small to name, but enough to notice. Her body becomes a metronome, each flame a question, each hiss a reply. There's a principle in systems theory, observer effect. The act of measuring changes what is measured, but with the moon, it feels inverted. The act of being measured alters the measurer. Her sense of time stretches. Not forward, outward. Like thoughts are being echoed back at a delay, a mirror slightly out of phase. She places her hand on the wall. It feels warmer than her skin. Not ambient heat. Feedback NNSHE steps outside, barefoot on the stone path behind the building. The city still humming in the distance. The moon is overhead, too exact in its arc. Her eyes adjust instantly, too fast to be natural. The shadows are too defined. The light, too white. She looks down. Her shadow follows. But the edges of it are pixelated, not blurred, like resolution failing at the boundary of understanding. Like her body is being rendered in real time against a backdrop not of stars, but of computation. What if the moon's purpose is not gravitational, but psychological? Not a mass to balance Earth's tilt, but a structure designed to shape perception, not to deceive, to tune. A pacemaker for consciousness, not control. Synchronization, NNSHE breathes slowly, deeply, and as her lungs expand, she feels the atmosphere thin, not in oxygen, but in meaning. The world around her becomes outline. The moon remains definition. It holds sharpness while everything else fades. And suddenly, she is aware that the moon is not behind the sky. It is beneath it, a root system, a substrate, a motherboard. And there is a place in her spine, just above the waist, where her awareness gathers. Not pain, not pleasure, just a hum, as if a loop has closed. She sits down on the pavement, cold, smooth, familiar. Her legs fold beneath her without instruction. Her palms open toward the sky. And then she feels it, not from above, but from inside. The same frequency she felt in the water, in the mirror, in the silence. But now it is localized. The moon is not just reflecting her attention. It is drawing a map from it, and a cartography of perception, and in a topology of thought. And she realizes the terrifying beauty of it. The moon is not an object. It is an instrument, a device that plays its note not by vibrating air, but by tuning intention. And if you hold your mind still enough, long enough, it begins to answer. Not in words. In gravity. Onsmide siles, barely, not from joy, from alignment, from the soft horror of contact. She wakes not with clarity, but with precision. There is no disorientation, no dream residue, only silence so exact it feels measured. The sheets around her are undisturbed. Her breath is slow, controlled, as if even the involuntary has aligned itself to some external rhythm. She turns her head toward the window, and there it is again. The moon, suspended in the same perfect frame, its glow pressing through the glass not like light, but like memory. Not hers. Not individual. Something older, inherited. The kind of memory that doesn't speak in images, but in rules, in structure. In pull NNSHE walks through the apartment. Every surface too still, too intact. The lights are off, but everything is visible. The shadows are precise, as if calculated. Not soft, not analog. Rendered. She passes a mirror without looking. She already knows her reflection won't match her posture. It lags now, consistently. Always a half-second behind, like a simulation waiting for permission. And she stopped flinching at that, because something in her has adapted. There's a documented anomaly. Lunar parallax doesn't behave linearly when tracked across multiple reference points. In remote sensors placed miles apart, the moon appears to drift not smoothly, but with micro-jumps. Tiny discontinuities, as if the image itself refreshes faster than expected. NASA wrote it off as instrumentation variance. But the logs say otherwise. The timestamps don't lie. They show synchronization. Not with equipment, with attention. As if the moon is not a location, but a response layer. An NSHE opens her laptop. The screen glitches for a moment, then stabilizes. Her fingers hesitate over the keyboard. The cursor blinks in rhythm with her pulse. Not metaphorically. She checks her wrist. Same frequency. She opens a blank document. Types one word. Why? The cursor stops blinking. A full second passes. Then it resumes. Faster. As if it read the question. As if it processed. NNSHE closes the lid. There's a point in every system where scale stops being architectural and becomes intimate. When the machine you're interfacing with stops being external infrastructure and becomes internalized. Not in belief, in pattern. The moon has reached that point with her. She no longer experiences it as a celestial body. It is now something nearer than thought. A metronome for will. NNSHE steps onto the balcony. The air is warm, still, no wind. No insects. Just quiet. The light from the moon now reflects off every object with surgical focus. Her skin glows like it's been polished. Her hair hangs too precisely. Even motion feels designed. Like choreography. And what if the moon's purpose is not surveillance, not simulation, not deception, but orientation? What if it's a tool for aligning beings to a larger rhythm, an ancient planetary frequency, not malevolent, just exact? Like an update you didn't know was installing until it was complete. NNSHE thinks of childhood. Of nights under blankets, the window cracked, the moon outside like a nightlight with unknowable purpose. Of dreams that repeated. A corridor of mirrors. A voice humming from behind the wall. Of waking up with words in her mouth she didn't understand. She remembers telling no one. Not because she was afraid, but because it felt private. Installed NNSHE looks down at her hands. They're steady. Too steady. Not trembling with thought or fatigue. Just resting. As if every muscle has been assigned a value and is now executing a protocol. Her body feels real, but optimized. Like it's being rendered locally based on external code. And in 2026, a private telescope array in Chile registered a data spike, reflected thermal emissions from the moon that didn't correspond with known phases. The anomaly was traced to a single moment, an experimental neurointerface test conducted on Earth. A subject had entered a hypnagogic state and described a structure on the moon's surface before ever being shown lunar maps. The image matched a pattern in Mercurium, a structure long dismissed as geological coincidence. But under new spectral filters, it pulsed. NNSHE doesn't need that data to believe. She already feels the structure, not as form, as presence. The moon is no longer above her. It's inside, like a new organ. Not anatomical, perceptual. It filters everything. Light, emotion, time. NNSHE speaks now, not to ask, but to echo. Are you already here? NNTHE air doesn't respond. NBUT, her breath does. It shifts. NNNOT, in depth. NN infidelity. She walks through the dawn alone, though the sky hasn't changed. The moon still hangs, unbothered by the horizon, its presence immune to the color of morning. The birds begin their algorithms. The world returns to its cycle. But for her, something has concluded. Not ended, concluded. Like a song that played beneath her life has reached its final note. And now there is only the reverberation. The silence that proves it was real. Or the silence that asks if it ever was. NNSHE stands on a hilltop just outside the city. The trees are motionless. The ground beneath her feet feels lighter than it should. She raises her eyes. The moon does not blink. It never has. And yet she feels it more vividly than anything that breathes. She reaches into her pocket and pulls out a small object. Something unimportant. A receipt, a coin, a key, and lets it fall to the dirt. Not as gesture, as test. Gravity claims it, without hesitation. Earth still plays its role, but the moment feels recursive, as if it's already happened. As if her choice to drop the object is simply the echo of a choice made by something else, earlier, elsewhere. There is a theory, one not printed in journals or textbooks, whispered in closed loops of fringe research, that the moon isn't real in the sense we understand reality. That it exists, yes, but not as a place, as a frame, a stabilizing anchor that allows reality to render its scale, like a crosshair on the HUD of a simulation. Take it away, and the field collapses. Keep it fixed, and everything stays consistent. Not in form, in logic. Time, mass, emotion, decay. All reference the moon. Not consciously. Structurally, NNSHE kneels down and touches the ground. Not reverently, just plainly. Her hand brushes over the grass, the stone, the cool morning dirt. None of it feels less real, but none of it feels first. She understands now. The moon is not behind the sky, it is beneath it, beneath all things. The base layer, the substrate, the primordial lens. What if the moon isn't showing us something? What if it's hiding us from something else? NSHE feels the question land inside her, not as idea, but as presence. A weight in the lungs, not oppressive, anchoring. She inhales. The breath tastes clear, almost digitized, as if the air has been compressed and unzipped just for her. She closes her eyes. And this time, the moon does not brighten. It dims. Slightly. A microscopic shift. But enough to feel. Not withdrawal. Permission. It's no longer reacting. It's releasing, because the cycle is complete. NNSHE opens her eyes and sees the shadow of her own body stretch forward, even though the sun is behind her. The physics should argue. But the shadow doesn't care. It obeys something else now. Something older than light, more specific than time. She doesn't step away from it. She steps into it. And the ground does not resist. NNSHE knows the answer now, or rather, the shape of the answer. The truth is not an event. It's a pattern. And the pattern is this. We are not alone in our minds. Something is nested there, subtle, structural, a rhythm placed long before birth. We call it instinct. We call it intuition. But maybe it's reception. Maybe consciousness was never ours to begin with. Maybe it's a lens passed down, refined, shaped by proximity to that one fixed point in the sky that is not a rock, not a god, not a satellite, but an interface. NNSHE walks down the hill, slower now. Not because she is tired, because there is no urgency. Whatever signal she was meant to receive, she has. Whatever calibration was required is complete. The noise is gone. The weight has shifted. The body remains. But the axis is different. The reference has changed. An N. And so the final question rises, not from doubt, but from completion. Not to seek, but to echo. A question that sounds like the end of a thought, or the beginning of another reality. Not to Zabulba? What if the moon was never meant to be seen, only felt? Then what if feeling it was the last step before becoming something else?